Hi there. If you watched my previous video, we ended up writing some tests to our API. We have a book API. We show some books that users submitted. So we had a few issues. First of all, we wanted to return an integer as the book price, but we were getting a string. So we made this little hack to just cast it to a string, but we should not do this. So besides that, I also want to return the user's name and email. So I want to see the book's name, book's price, and the user who submitted the book information. So let me just show you how this test is going to fail, both of them. And it's failing because we are searching for a price for, but we actually get something is wrong. Oh no, it's right. It's the book's name. I thought it was the user's table, but it's not. So we are getting price for, but as a string. We don't want this. And we also don't want to have this user ID. Oh, okay, user ID. We don't want to have this updated at and created at fields. We don't want to return timestamps. So first, let's write the proper test. We want to see the user's info. So we want to see the user's name, it should be username, and the user's email. But this is going to fail. Let me write this in the other test. And it's going to fail. Okay, this is not going to reach this part because it already fails right here. But just so I can show you, let me just cast this to a string. And we can find the user's info within this JSON we are returning. So how can we fix this? Let me just remove it. Okay, so all of our tests are properly written, and well, it should work. I mean, it shouldn't because we haven't done anything, but that's what should happen. We should see this JSON. So we could do this. Let me show you. An option, and that's a terrible option, is to, I don't know, say something like new books equals an array, and do for each books as book, and for each book you keep adding data to this array the way you want, but it sucks. It's not a good approach. Instead, we are going to use this package called Fractal. This is actually Laravel Fractal. Fractal is right here. Its documentation. It's basically a transformation layer that allows you to transform data before returning it. So we are going to use this to transform data before returning it through our API. This is a package called Laravel Fractal. It's a really good package. We're going to use it. I have already installed it, so I will not show you. You just have to run composer require /Laravel Fractal, and I have already set it up in my app file. Here it is, its provider, and and its facade. Okay, so how do we use this? I mean, what should I do? It's not that difficult. Let's go to our books controller. As we want to get the user's name and email, instead of writing this, I'm going to eager load this. So instead of doing one more query for each book and stuff like that, I'm just going to eager load it. So I'm going to say with user. This is a common problem called n+1 queries. It's covered in the Laravel documentation. I'm going to leave a link to the documentation explaining this. And I want to get all registries. Okay, so we are returning with the user right now, but we want to manipulate this data. I mean, we are getting the user's info right now, but I want to manipulate this data. How can I do this? We're going to use transformers. So transformers are these really simple classes that extends a transform abstract class. It's provided by Laravel by PHP League, the PHP League. I'm sorry, from Fractal by the PHP League. And we just have to import it. I use a nice Sublime package called Sublime PHP Companion. And we have this method transform. It accepts an argument called book. We could call it whatever we want. And it must be an instance of book. Let me just import it. So one of you may be thinking like, why doesn't it accept a collection? Because if we take a look at the example, we are passing a collection of books. It's because this is going to be applied to each item in the collection. So we are going through each one of them. That's why we send the item class, not the collection class. Okay, so we pass a book. You may see this is a collection of books. Oops. So we pass a book to each one of them. I'm sorry, for each loop. And here we can manipulate data. We return an array, and we can say how this array should be arranged, if that makes sense. We say the name should be the book's name, but we could call that title. That's fine. So we would still have the name column in our database, in our table, but our API was going to return title instead of name. We have the price. We are casting this price to an integer because it's going to be a string when the database sends the data to us. And then we return the user's data. So we have the user's an array that has a name and an email, and that's it. Fractal is going to do all the magic for us. So as we are using Laravel Fractal, we don't have to instantiate anything. We just have to say return Fractal. We want to transform with an instance of book transformer. Import it. We want to collect those books. We want to transform them with a book transformer, and then we want to return an array. That's it. So everything's set up. Let me run the test. Let's see what happens. Okay, so right now only the second test is failing, this one, because it's still returning the way we don't want to. How can we do this? You may notice that if I do the same thing, like return Fractal, collection, book, transform, book transformer, it is not going to work. Let me show you. Let's just fire the whole thing. It's failing. That's because let me show you another thing before I explain this. Okay, I don't know. Let's go. Okay, so it's failing. That's because we are passing an instance of book instead of a collection to the Fractal. This method accepts a collection, not an item, not a single item. So we have to pass the item method, and it's going to work. Okay, it's working, but let me show you something. You may notice we got this generic error like 1500 matches expected, 200, 500, sorry. There's a simple way to fix this. That's because if we go to the handler class, you may notice this method actually rendered the whoops page. And we don't want that happening in our tests. How can we fix this? This is a snippet from one of Adam Wetham's videos. This just swaps the handler class with an anonymous class in Laravel's container. So instead of rendering this, we are just throwing the exception. Let me show you, okay, so you can see it better. Take a look at the difference. Here we render the page, the whoops page, and here we just throw the exception. I already have it set up. Let me just import everything. Okay. Okay. Close this. Now let's call disable exception handling and let's run it again. And we actually get the exception, not the generic error. So the argument we pass to book transformer is not an instance of book. How can we fix this? That's not an instance of book because it is looping through each one of the items, but this is not a collection, so you cannot loop through it. So let's pass the item method, and if we run it again, everything works fine. So we can use this nice package called Fractal, or even better, Laravel Fractal, to help us do this transformation thing. We can transform data before sending it to the end user, so it really helps when building APIs. So that's how we basically use controllers. Transformers. There are a few other things I'd like to show you. Also, let's just eager load this. Okay, I just noticed one thing. Oh, okay, I didn't show you. I set up the user method in the book class. It hadn't this method. It just says a book belongs to the user class. So okay, let me show you again. Everything works fine. So this is how you use transformers. There are other things about transformers, like you can actually say, where's my transformer? One of the the keys of the array is going to be actually another transformer, but this is going to be in another lesson. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to read more Laravel related articles or TDD or something like this, you can take a look at my blog. If you didn't watch any of the other videos, I have other 2 videos in English in this channel, so you can take a look. And I'm going to publish this code in GitHub, so you can take a look at the code. So yeah, you can take a look at it on GitHub. But everything's working fine. We are transforming our data before sending it, so we can do a lot of things. So let's say we actually want to return this as title, not name. We can do this just fine. So yeah, that's it. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you liked it because it's the end of the video. So if you want to learn something more about me, you can take a look at my blog, or I don't know, my Twitter or something like that. Thank you very much, and have a nice day or afternoon or night. I don't know. Bye.